then the last example of this lesson is the actual word problem, since we are okay, or we have mastered how to find the equation from a given graph. So for the word problem, exactly the same. But when you're dealing with a word problem, the most important thing is you have to draw the approximate diagram per se, not the actual graph of it, but a diagram that represents the situation. So let's take a look. NPC. Nope. Well, hopefully we can do it still. The boarding height of a wheel, or the Ferris wheel, is 1 meter, and the wheel has a radius of 7 meters. The Ferris wheel takes 30 minutes for 1 revolution. Find the function that represents the height of the passenger's location versus time. So what we have to do is we have to find the maximum, minimum, start point, or the first point, and the period. As long as we find those 4 components, we will be able to establish an equation. So let's take a look. It says we have a wheel, and the height of the wheel, the boarding height, is 1 meter. So that's 1 meter, and it says radius of 7 meters. So radius of 7 meters, 7 meters above over there. So our car on the wheel rotates this way, and that takes 30 minutes. And by taking a look at this, we can actually find the maximum quite easily. So the maximum is from here to the ground, and that gives me 7 plus 7 plus 1, so that's 15 meters. My minimum is 1 meter. Now, because of that, we can find it. So that's 1, that's 2. So this gives me A equals 15 the max minus min, 15 minus 1 divided by 2, and that is a 7. Now, hopefully you notice they're the same. So whenever the radius is given to you, that's your amplitude, because that's how much you're going up and down by. Then your D is then 15 plus 1 divided by 2, the max plus min divided by 2, which is 8. Now, hopefully you notice this. It's the distance from the center to the ground. So the height of the center of the Ferris wheel is your EAS, because that's the middle of, and then the 7 meter down, 7 meter up, 7 meter down, 7 meter up. Now then the third is the B value. To find the B value, we need to know the period. So the period is 30 minutes in this case. The unit really doesn't matter for now. Then to find the B value, the B is then 360 degrees divided by the period, which is 30. And that is basically 12. So this basically means it rotates by 12 degrees per minute. That's actually what it means. And our C is basically 0, right? We start at the minimum time of 0. So we've found all the components that we do need. Then the last one is then we have to construct the equation. A equals 7 cosine, because I'm starting from minimum, maximum, and minimum. This graph actually resembles our cosine graph, because our cosine graph looks like this, right? And then we have B being 12, x minus 0, and then plus 8. Now, something that you have to keep in mind is that, see, our starting point is actually at the minimum. That's the reflection on the x-axis, or the vertical reflection of the graph, and therefore our A must be negative, so it has a negative 7 cosine. 12 x minus 0, so I'll just put it as 12x, and we are good to go. Done. Just be really careful with this. If someone says, can you find the sine graph of that, then that's fine too. Sine graph, we can simply say, yeah, that's the middle right here, right? And that means we just need to move to the right, and that should be okay. Or you can say, we can move to the left. That's also fine too. So playing around with a period of 4 gives you the freedom to change from sine to cosine and cosine to sine. Now then for the next one, it says at 10-minute mark, how high is the passenger at? So we need to then substitute this 10 into our t, or the x. So our y height equals negative 7 cosine 12 times 10 plus 8. And when we do calculate this, negative 7 cosine 120 plus 8, that gives me negative 7 times negative 1/2 plus 8. And therefore I get 11.5 meters. And it does kind of make sense, because when you draw the wheel, it takes half an hour to make a full revolution. So 15 minutes is to the max, and somewhere in the middle is 7.5 minutes. And we're asked to find after 10, so 10 is somewhere around here. And we know the height maximum over there is 15 meters, and the middle should be 8 meters. So our answer should be in between these two values, so it's actually safe. Sometimes it is beneficial for you to check in this way because you don't know, or you may have calculated something wrong by not pressing the negative on your calculator, and then it actually is quite critical. So I'm going to leave that one there. And that is it pretty much for the hardest part. Again, the hard part of this lesson is 1, finding A, B, C, D. And then 2 is to find or use period to find the B value, obviously. And then the last one is finding the C value from cosine to sine or sine to cosine using the quarter of a period, either moving to the left or moving to the right using your common sense. Okay, so let's just revisit that before we finish it. For the previous first will question, we know it's going to look like this all the time, up and down and up and down. And as we said, this was my starting boarding height. If I want to keep the A value as it is, the negative, I can choose this point over there. That's because then my sine graph looks like the green. Hopefully you see that. Then it's again from middle to the minimum rather than middle to the maximum, which is the vertical reflection. So then A has to be negative, right? But if you want to choose this middle over there, then my sine graph looks like this, from middle to the max, and that's just a regular sine graph without any reflection. So then your A value will stay in positive rather than the negative, but then you're starting the C value to the right. So you have to then calculate the C value accordingly. So again, if you chose this one, then your A stays in the negative, but then your C value has to change according to this, and you're actually adding a period of 4, but then this is the other way around. Okay, so have that flexibility, then it should be quite easy to do. Thanks for watching. Hopefully this didn't waste your time too much. Hopefully it was beneficial to comprehend this difficult concept. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment below. I will try to answer as soon as possible. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe and like button. I will see you guys in the dungeon next time. The dungeon is going to be somewhat challenging. Okay, bye bye.